So I'm going to hand things over to Dave to give us a quick rundown of our agenda, and then we'll be getting started with our presentation for this afternoon.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Good day, everybody. So what we want to cover is, after a little bit of introductions and getting started here, we want to take a look at mapping in 3D and customizing your map styles. Aaron will be showing some examples of how to do that. We'll be talking about some of the new application templates that Google Maps is offering now, which is a great way to get started with pre-built templates. And then we'll conclude the webinar with some ideas on how we, AppGeo, can help you get started. So go ahead, Aaron. So let's begin with this question. How intuitive are your mapping applications? How easy is it for your users to immediately understand what to do and understand the process of accomplishing what they're about? Go ahead, Aaron. What we want to do is talk about 3 different ideas, topics that attack this question, address this question. The first one is to style your maps to align with brand or purpose. It's very simple to take the default Google base map that everybody is most likely familiar with using the consumer Google Maps app on your tablet, on your phone, on your desktop, and that certainly is available in the Google Maps platform. But Google now offers a way to configure your maps in very creative ways to either align with your brand, colors, styles, etc., or align with the purpose of your particular application. For example, if you are showing a locator application for medical offices, you may not want to show all the restaurants in the area. Likewise, if you're wanting to show a locator for things to do in an area, you may want to show all the restaurants in an area. Or if you're a government services organization and you want to show where your service offices are, locations, you may not want to show other commercial points of interest. You now have the ability to control all of that content and align your map with your purpose. Next one, Aaron. Second topic we want to hit are some very new in beta form capabilities that Google has just rolled out around something called vector maps. Aaron will be explaining this, and now 3D maps in the Google Maps platform. If you've been following the consumer Google Maps app on your phone, you're aware that you can zoom in and now see it in 3D, tilt, rotate, very, very powerful capabilities. And those capabilities are now being migrated into Google Maps platform. And of course, this is all about conveying more contextual information in the application, the purpose that you're trying to achieve with your application. For example, navigating downtown, putting that into 3D and allow the user to see the landmarks and buildings and so forth. Obviously, makes it easier to navigate. And then the third one, Aaron. So we'll end with not necessarily how to make your apps more intuitive, but how to get started with application development in Google. They have come out with some templates that they call Quick Builder. There are 3 of them that Aaron will be talking about. It's just a real easy way to get started in building out Google Maps-based applications. And Aaron will be showing a little bit about what that's about and how you go about it, and then where you can go beyond that to address some particular issues. So with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron to walk us through these 3 topics.
All right, thank you, Dave, and we'll be hearing from Dave again toward the end of the presentation with some ways that AppGeo, as a premier partner, are going to be able to help you implement some of these solutions and suggestions. But let's start off with the conversation of why stylize, and also how to enable some of these cloud-style customizations that we're going to be sharing with you today. So to answer that question, we as map lovers at AppGeo love thinking about how to communicate visually through mapping applications. And with Google Maps, you now have a very broad canvas to be able to kind of design your vision. Now, this could be to create experiences more closely aligned with your brand. Say this is going onto your website or your mobile application. You can really make a seamless experience where it doesn't suddenly look like you're being pushed onto a different technology. And you can also, again, really configure what is being shown, whether the park names are important, neighborhood names are important, understand the scale that your users are going to be engaging with the map, and really fine tune that to exactly how you want that to apply. Another real advantage of this, what we're calling cloud-based map styling, is that you're able to make these tweaks in interface and apply them across your applications with no coding required. You'll have a nice library of all the styles you've built. You can go in and modify them or test things out behind the scenes. With only a couple button presses, actually enable these map styles into your applications and be up and running without any altering of code as was required in previous versions. So again, as we see on the screen here, lots of views of the same region with different styles applied to just give you a sense of the creativity that you can now apply. That's the way that I like to look at it. But in reality, if you're making a navigation application, yeah, we need to think about roads and bridges. If we're making an application designed for people on foot, then maybe we can like de-emphasize the highways, for example, because we know people aren't going to be walking along a highway. And again, the possibilities are very much limitless, and we're always able to consult with you to find the most appropriate look and feel for your use case. So hopefully these have sounded interesting. Next, we're going to look at how to access them, how to find these cloud style customization features. Now, this is going to be most applicable if you are already a Google Maps platform user. If you're not, you're going to get a little preview here of what you can expect when you get into the Google Cloud Platform site, which is where Google Maps platform now lives. So what you see on the screen here is the style management page. This is something that's relatively new. It was rolled out only about a year ago in a beta format, and it should be available for all users of the platform at this point. Here you can see I have like 6 or so different styles that I've already made, and easily go into any one of them, make little tweaks, update it. And the cool thing about this approach is you can create one style and apply it to multiple applications. And that's done through the use of this next section. You can see on the left hand here, it looks like a little map unfolding. This is called map management. And in this section, you're able to assign a style to these map IDs. These map IDs are what you're actually feeding into your application to say, hey, this is the style that I want to use. And that map ID will remain consistent no matter what changes you make to the style. This is going to become important again as we talk about some of the later features, because this is where you're going to find the settings that are going to enable those. But keeping on style for a moment, let's just look at a quick side-by-side example. Say that you're a retailer with space in Manhattan and Brooklyn. This is what your app might look like if you're relying on some of the default features on Google Maps. It's definitely kind of a busy map. We have a lot of other icons. Again, if your goal is to draw your customers to one of those 3 pins, maybe you don't want to have all the museums on there and like some restaurants on there. You want to really clean it up. So after applying customization, we've gone with some custom colors for the roadways. We still have the neighborhood names because we want people to know what neighborhood our store is in. But we've really made those icons pop out, and we've hidden all the stuff that is less relevant for our application. And the great thing about these cloud styling features is that they are no additional cost if you're already using the Google Maps APIs. So it's definitely to your advantage to go around and explore some of these features that are now available to you for no additional cost. I'd like to show one real-life example of one of our Maps customers who are taking advantage of these features, and that's Tiffany. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this brand. They go back a long way, but one of the really important things to Tiffany's branding is, of course, their color. I'm pretty sure it's literally trademarked, right? The Tiffany blue. And they've taken the Google Map styling, applied it to their store Locator. And you can see there's like 2 locations in Boston. So they're showing up in that nice Tiffany blue color. And they've gone ahead and hidden some of those other icons to really clean up the map. We really like what this customer has done, and we think more and more brands should take notice and start using this level of detail when they're thinking about their web-based store locator. So let's move on to the next section, which is going to be potentially even more exciting for many of you, as this is quite new, and that is the vector map capabilities, 3D capabilities in WebGL. So we like to think that this has opened up a whole new world of possibilities on the platform. And traditionally, our customers were faced with certain limitations when working only with what is called raster mapping. And with this new release of vector mapping, there are quite a range of possibilities that are now opened up. So to give you like a real quick comparison of these two technologies, when you think of raster maps, which is what the platform was based on for many years since kind of the first rollout of Google Maps, think of it more like a pre-printed road atlas where what you're downloading is a set of images that are already rendered on the server. You're just downloading them at the scale that you want to see them. And as such, there's limited customization that can happen with that resulting map. Many of you have probably seen this. If you're trying to add like overlay layers on the map, they're just kind of transparent on top. Not so much you can do when it comes to rotating and customizing things, as all of these changes have to then propagate to new tiles to be downloaded. And this is getting a little bit technical, but just understand that with raster technology, we were able to have a very fast experience, as they're well compressed and nice and small in size, and lots of compatibility with legacy devices. But it was definitely leaving something to be desired, and that is where these vector maps come into play. So with vector-based mapping, the map is actually rendered on the client's browser through the GPU of their end device or on their phone, for example. And this is something that has been supported on pretty much all browsers released after 2017. So, relatively new technology, and now we're finally seeing all these web-based applications catching up. Now, this is offering us some pretty interesting additional things. So we're basically running the map like think about it like a video game where things are, rendered in real time. What that lets us do is have much more effective and interesting camera animation, so zooming in and out at multiple scales. It allows for dynamic styling based on the data. It allows us, most importantly, for maybe our discussion today, 3D, so rendering buildings in 3 dimensions and taking advantage of those models. And it opens up way more possibilities as to what we can put on the map, as it's effectively now a playground for us to create all sorts of things in addition to the data that we're coming in with. So to help make this maybe a little more applicable to your industry, here are some of the use cases that we've been thinking about when it comes to taking advantage of these features. More and more applications and more customers are getting used to actually interfacing in a 3D environment relative to a 2D map, and it really just makes a more realistic and lifelike representation of your data. So we have some interesting cases from travel, tourism, construction, real estate, retail, logistics, the list goes on. We, for example, at AppGeo are involved in these tree canopy analysis for cities, and we're looking at ways to integrate some of these 3D camera angles into maybe looking at the results of these studies at a citywide scale where we want to zoom around and give people a much more immersive experience. It's just one example of where these come into play. So you've heard about it, you're excited to use it. How do you get to it? It's going to also be within the Google Maps platform console that we talked about earlier, and specifically this Maps management page. For each of these map IDs, there's a couple settings that we need to be cognizant of. This is also true if you're creating a new one from scratch. So on this menu here, if I were to edit one of my map IDs, you'll see a pop-up like that. It has a name, it has a description, but the real key checkboxes to look at if you want to enable these features. Over here, there's a radial button for vector. So, raster is still supported, and there are some use cases where it may make sense to stick with it. So we can always work with you to advise you on this little distinction. But if you're looking to tap into these new features, you would just click over to vector. And then furthermore, there are checkboxes for tilt and rotation. You're going to want to make sure those are checked. And then what that's going to do is give your map users this more 3D immersive experience. And again, these are based on the Dynamic Maps API from Google Maps. And another thing to just quickly note is that you might want to craft your style with the fact that people are going to be tilting or maybe looking at the buildings in mind. For example, there is the opportunity to turn off building footprints on the map, but if you want those 3D buildings to be there, you got to make sure they're on. So that's all done in the map style pane. So let's look at some of this stuff. we want to show you some examples of what these 3D buildings look like and how you can actually start to use them. And I'm going to hop over to some live examples here. Here is a store locator that we had built. I'm going to quickly jump over to this live demo. So this is a store locator we showed off in a previous webinar, but I have since gone in and enabled the 3D feature. So it looks pretty similar when we're at further zoom scales, but as we get closer and closer down to the individual building scale, this is where things start to get more interesting. So you can see we have the 3D buildings here in this shopping center. You can see my store icon is still on top of the building. If I click on it, I get the pop-up with store details, and I can even drop myself into Street View and start to interact with the map in that way. So again, having this ability to tilt and look around gives you a much more immersive experience, especially so in the urban environments where you have a lot of tall buildings around. Like, let's go up here in New York, where things are probably going to be significantly more dense. Depending on where your store entrance is, these can be really helpful tools to help people know, within the context of this building facade, where I'm going to find the retailer. And of course, this is just one example of many, but we just wanted to show you how quick it is to enable these features in your existing applications if you're not even building a new one from scratch. So from here, I'd like to talk a little bit about the WebGL side of things, and this is where it definitely gets interesting. So hopping back into the slides. So what is WebGL? Well, this is a graphics library that is used for all sorts of 3D modeling, and now that we're working in a 3D space, Google has given us the ability to add those kind of 3D assets directly onto the map. And we have some really cool examples to show you that help to illustrate this point. In addition to having more rich data visualization as well as animations of my data, this is just a way to bring in a whole new layer of richness to what we're able to do with Google Maps. And this is something that a couple of years ago really wouldn't have been possible. Now with support for things like WebGL, we can have animations, we can have 3D models, and I'm going to walk through a few more of the solutions that we thought were really interesting that are now opened up. So for example, here you're seeing a flight path between Paris Airport and the London Heathrow. We can bring that 3D plane model in and animate it along a path with Google Maps in 3D as the background. We can animate the path of a vehicle in real time along a route. Think about visualizing your Uber ride before you hop in or something, right? But this could have very serious possibilities in like the delivery space, where you really want to see what the delivery location looks like in the context of loading docks and things in 3D space. We see some really cool examples in the hospitality and even construction worlds where we might want to be bringing in a rendering of a new building and have it in the architectural context of its environment. What's the view from my hotel going to be like? Well, in this application, we can see I have this beautiful, view of the park across the street. It also helps me understand what it would be like to walk down the road. I think that's kind of what we see here. Especially when we're talking about more and more customers using their phones to navigate around cities, adding elements of 3D is really helpful for a lot of people when it comes to navigating and understanding where they are in context. More matching up to the reality of their environment. And then lastly, it's not just about adding in additional models, but you can do some cool things with labels, animating them to always match the frame of our viewpoint. And just think about how much more of an immersive experience we have here with this walking tour compared to the old school map, which might look something like this, where we're just looking straight down. We're not really getting the full context of what we're seeing in reality. So hopefully these have gotten you a little bit excited about some of those WebGL capabilities. Again, there's quite a lot that can be done here as we're kind of blending the space of 3D modeling and real-world mapping. So I'm excited to see what new features are further rolled out, but this kind of gives you a taste for what is now possible when we enter this 3D world. So I'm going to bring us back for just a moment here to our deck to talk about the next topic, which is these quick builder templates. Google Maps has always had some really impressive features, but they can be a little intimidating to get started with unless you have a programming or web development background. With these quick builder templates, Google has made it easier to hop in and get started with many of their most popular features. So we're going to show you how to access them, some of the best practices, and how you may potentially want to go further than the templates in certain instances. So where do we find them? Back in our Google Maps platform console, there is this button called Solution Library, and this is going to be where you're going to find these available templates. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what you'll find there, and then we're going to go through each one really quickly just so you can have a sense of how to use it and how to get started. I have a feeling after today's presentation, you'll all be able to go and try these out, as they're pretty intuitive to use. So what have we got? A store locator builder called Locator Plus. This allows you to quickly create a store locator plugin for your website where you can choose your locations and have a map as well as address finder all ready to go. We've got the address selection, which is effectively a way to create a quick autocomplete plugin using Google's autocomplete technology for, say, your checkout page or a user registration, where you want to take advantage of that time-saving autocomplete feature. And then lastly, something called neighborhood discovery, where you can highlight nearby points of interest of your choosing. This one is particularly useful, again, for those hospitality use cases where you might be wanting to show off what is in a neighborhood, but could also have pretty interesting implications in like real estate as well. Say someone's buying a house or an apartment, they're going to want to know what's in that neighborhood, and this is a way to show that. So I'm going to show you all these live. We're going to start with Locator Plus to give you a sense of how to use it and what you can do. So we are here in the solution library in Google Cloud Platform. So Locator Plus. There are 3 default designs that are made available to you, going from basic to advanced. Now, one caveat that I'm going to show you here is that each one uses different APIs and kind of different tiers of data within those APIs. So going from basic to intermediate and advanced, there's actually potentially a higher cost because you're now taking those places details requests, for example. So we suggest choosing the one that best fits your needs with how complex you feel you want to provide. And again, these are all places that we can help consult you on. But if we were to go with intermediate, you can get a kind of a feel here for what the app would look like. We have, it's pre-populated with a handful of locations. But if I were to hit next here, we could actually add in our own from scratch. So I can say, let's do the AppGeo office as one. And it's actually going to ask to verify exactly where you want that pin to be, which is a nice feature if you really want to show, where your building entrance is. So I can define that, confirm, and then so on and so forth. I can, populate my map with as many of my stores as I'd like, and here we go. The great thing about this is that after you've completed adding your locations, you can try it out and then export your code either to the clipboard, to JS Fiddle, which is a site which allows you to try out your code before it goes live on your own site, or put it right in your Google Cloud Storage because we are natively in that Google Cloud environment. We also have the ability to kind of preview the code here. I find this really helpful for those who are more code-minded to kind of get a sense of what's going on under the hood, especially as we were to, say, change between the different implementations like basic, intermediate, and advanced. You can really kind of start to understand where these different features are being called and helps you learn to use them better. But hopefully this helps you understand the basics of getting a store locator up and running. Now, I will like to share one more example of how we've gone kind of above and beyond when it comes to the store locators. There are going to be cases where the default builders may not cut it for a couple of reasons. One, loading in locations one by one. That might be great if you have 10 or 12 stores, but what if you have many more? So here's an example of an application that AppGeo built for the Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center. They're a multi-state organization that has over 5,000 locations that they track and help users find. And in this case, we have this more advanced locator app that AppGeo had built from scratch. In this case, we can do more advanced features like having a distance radius, filters, and drawing from our own data for those 5,000 locations rather than relying on Google Places. So especially for larger implementations like this, there are a lot of advantages to building a more robust locator from scratch, depending on your exact needs. But for those smaller businesses, the templates are a great way to get started and also just understand how the APIs are working for you. So I just wanted to share that as a quick potential way to go further after you've gotten familiar with the templates or want something for larger organizations. The next one that I'm going to share really quickly is on the autocomplete side. So let's see, many of you are familiar with autocomplete. You've seen it on tons of sites where you're going to be checking out. Again, we have a few options. We do want to have autocomplete addresses, and we have the ability to simplify the map, just cleaning it up for the end user and having less options to play around with. And maybe what is my default zoom level? After we have chosen our parameters, maybe I could call it checkout. I could call it, register, thus going to update live. I can play around with it. So if I want to do AppGeo 33 broad, it's already detected that my device is in the Boston area. So it's showing me relevant results. The very first one is the one I wanted, so I can click that. You can see it's filled in the rest of the fields, zip code, state. The reason we have the map here is to help confirm to the user that they have put in the right address. I mean, how many main streets are there in the US, right? It's really easy to just throw in the address and maybe they get the zip code wrong and suddenly their package is in the wrong town, and now they're not so happy, right? With Google Autocomplete, it not only makes it really fast, but they're also getting that visual confirmation that yes, this is the right city, right zip code. All that's going to be in there and passed along to your application. So again, very similar to the store locator builder, where I can copy that code out and get up and running very quickly. Now, the last feature that we're going to look at today is this neighborhood discovery. Ultimately, this ends up looking a lot like the store locator, except the use case here is that we're showing off other businesses, other points of interest. Where you would use this, we've thought about, the hospitality space, as we mentioned, real estate. I'm sure there are many more. If you're a local government, maybe showing off locations within your city, like parks or libraries. We'll show you some of those customizations. So what's cool here is we can pick a neighborhood and really craft the boundaries of that neighborhood to either a distance radius. If we're talking about you're at a hotel and you want to walk to dinner, well, then we're going to be picking, kind of a small radius. Whereas if we're talking about driving, maybe something a little bit bigger, depending on how spread out things are in your area. Let's go nice and tight. We also have the ability to draw a custom boundary on here. It's a little time consuming, so I won't go through the entire process now. But we could actually refine it even further by drawing a polygon on the map and limiting results directly to that area, which is really cool. From there, we can curate the local highlights, as they call it. So choosing the type of locations that I want to show off. So in this case, restaurants, art, nightlife. I might even add in parks here. And these are all the places near the AppGeo headquarters that someone might want to tour, when we open up our hotel wing next year. Keep an eye out for that. But going a step further, we can adjust the density of the results here, depending on how many we want to show. But perhaps most importantly, go in and customize this list. So if I want to show people Faneuil Hall, the aquarium, legal seafoods, if for some reason I don't want people going to the hard rock, we can, clear it out. Or say I was only trying to show parks here, I could quickly filter out everything that isn't a park or museum manually. We can also add in additional places by just searching for them. If I wanted to put in a handful of other spots by name, if they're in our map radius, it'll allow us to drop a point there. So in a very similar fashion to the store locator, we have 3 different modes: advanced, where you got all these pictures and like star ratings. A level down from that gives you the names and the pictures. If I click on it, I'm now getting like the hours and the phone number. All of this is coming from places details. It's even showing me, because I picked our office as our starting point, show me exactly how to walk to that place on the map. So that's a really cool feature. It's providing built-in directions. If I go down to the basic, we still get those directions. The only thing that we're not getting is like the phone number and the reviews. So, depending on your use case, you might not need to show the reviews of a park, but having the pictures of the restaurant come in automatically is really nice. Again, these are things that would be cumbersome to build on your own, but now with this template, they've made it really easy. And just like that, I can export this code and plug it right into my site and be up and running. I know that was pretty quick, but hopefully that gave you a sense of what you can do with these quick builders. With there, I'd like to hand it back over to Dave to just kind of give you some closing thoughts about either implementing these strategies or how AppGeo can help take you further. So Dave, welcome back, and why don't you bring us to closure here prior to our Q&A session.
Sounds good, Aaron. Thank you. So go ahead to the next slide. There are 3 ways that we work with our clients to help you get started and build some amazing Google Maps-based applications. The first one we call Do It Yourself, and that's simply connect with a partner like us. We are a premier Google Maps partner. We've been in the geospatial consulting business, GIS, geospatial, for 30+ years, and we've been a Google Premier Partner, Google Maps Premier Partner for 8 years. So we have very deep experience in serving customers with Google Maps, building on Google Maps, and advising clients on how to work with it. Second step is get on that console. So if you notice that just about everything that Aaron showed today, he got through the Google console, and that's kind of your gateway point to doing everything with Google Maps or getting started with Google Maps. Including setting up projects, checking out the API keys to put into your code, monitoring your API usage. That's where you go to see how much you're burning, how many APIs per month, and those kinds of things. And then, as Aaron was showing today, the new features of custom styling is done through the console. The new, I want to work in vector space and WebGL, tilt, rotate, and then these new templates are all done through the console. So you get started in the console, get your APIs, and then you're ready to start building your application. We did a webinar just a few months ago on getting started with Google Maps. It kind of goes into a little bit more depth in today's webinar on how to work in the console, how to read the charts and understand the usage and these kinds of things. So I'd encourage you, if you're not familiar with the Google Maps console, to check that webinar out in our webinar library. The address is there on the slide. Next slide, please. The second way we can help you is to get help from experts like us. So we are serving a number of our clients in a consulting capacity. As I say, we've been doing this. We've been in this space for many years with deep experience. And we're helping clients who want to build something on their own, but they're not sure how to take it on or how to implement using best practices. So Google has created a platform that is extremely flexible and adaptable in multiple ways of accomplishing these use cases. There's 2 or 3 ways of doing autocomplete. There's different ways of doing geocoding, whether to store geocodes, whether not. There are different ways of putting the maps on the screen, what you can do with those maps. And that's where we can come in. We can provide some consulting for you on best practices, and in particular, optimization strategies, because some of those approaches that you can take are cost more in terms of API usage than other approaches. And we can help you walk through those and make sure you're going in the right direction. We specialize in building and consulting on simple and effective spatial user experiences. We're a big believer in decluttering applications, making them very intuitive. Aaron showed an example of that with that telehealth resource locator, very clean, simple user interface to make it easy for people to find, in that case, medical facilities. We also understand very well, have some experience with the Google Terms of Services. They are, in some cases, can be restrictive, and you need to pay attention to them, and we can help you navigate those terms, make sure that you're on the right course. We can help you with cloud resourcing, deployment considerations, and all of this is all about saving you time and money, especially in your development efforts. So that's what we're trying to help you with. We did help the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services last year build out their vaccine locator. And that one now is a case study on our portfolio page. Encourage you to read about how they took advantage of our consulting services and expedited their implementation efforts. Next slide, please. Finally, if you are interested in outsourcing your Google Maps-based project, we are also in the business of providing those services. We've been doing this for years, of building very complex and large, if you will, use cases. Two examples over here on the right side. We built out a campus navigation map for the Rutgers University, 3 different campuses across New Jersey, very extensive to building information, bus routes, walkways, everything that is required to help students and visitors navigate the campuses, find out where they need to go and how to get there. Another example is a project that we built for Texas Department of Transportation called Drive Texas. This is a traveler information system, i.e. a 511 system that Texas has had up and running for, gosh, probably 5 or 6 years now. It has been hurricane tested. When the hurricanes come in out of the Gulf of Mexico and the hit rates on this application, people need to understand where the roads are shut down, the roads being affected by the hurricane, these kinds of things. The volume of hits have gone up well over 500,000 visits per day and goes on for 4 or 5 days. And this application has never faltered, has never slowed down, which is a testimony to the scalability and performance of Google Maps running on the Google Cloud platform. So really, really great example of what can be done and what the work that we have done. And of course, all of this is about freeing up your own GIS staff resources, your own IT staff resources for other projects. So that might be a consideration for you to think about. And with that, we hope that this has been a great webinar for you. We are glad to do some follow-ups with you, explore any of the ideas that Aaron has presented, and help you get started with Google Maps. So with that, back over to you, Aaron.
All right, well put, Dave. And we are here to answer your questions about any of the features we showed today. And if it's anything beyond that, we'll take our best effort to answer as well. But you're going to find a Q&A button within your Zoom panel if you'd like to join in the conversation. I did see a couple come in as we were on some of the earlier sections, so we're going to be happy to get to those questions. But we definitely have a little bit of time here left and would love to answer any questions that you all have. So let's see, Dave, we got a couple here. One is, how do I tell if my map is on raster or vector mode? So to answer that, it all goes back to that map management page. Let's see if I can find the original slide here. So it's right here. So if I go into one of my map styles, my map ID under this little window here, hit that edit button, this is what you're looking for. It's the raster or vector buttons. It can only be one at a time. By default, a lot of them were likely created coming over as raster, so you're going to have to consciously make the switch unless you created it very recently, in which case it may have been created as a vector. And when you're creating a new style, that's something that you're going to want to be aware of as part of the process. So